It's another edition of MazzaOnSports. Thank you guys so much for joining in. We're here talking about all things sports today. We got to get into obviously a lot of NBA talk right now. Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals is going on between the Pistons and the Cavaliers to determine who will face the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. We will keep track of that game as it goes on. We have a winner between the Timberwolves and Spurs series, and we'll talk about the series between the Thunder and their winner. And the winner of the Spurs Timberwolves series, as the Spurs defeated the Timberwolves to advance to the Western Conference Finals. We'll discuss that. A little bit of NFL talk today. Obviously, some to talk about. Not that surprising, certainly, but certainly some to discuss from Western Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh. Again, not at all surprising, but we'll get into that just a little bit. But first, I have to talk about the Mets, and I have to talk about the sub. I know I get into the Mets a lot. I have to talk about the Mets, and I have to talk about what I saw today in their comeback win and overall in the Subway Series, and also just how much it changed how different this video was going to be. I wasn't, I'm not a ranter. I don't go on rants. I don't scream and yell and everything. At least I try not to, but I certainly don't. But I was ready to come into this video and just rip the Mets to shreds. I was ready to, for 8 innings today, they played just awful, awful baseball. I was also ready to say that you can't really justify Carlos Mendoza as the manager at this point. For 8 innings, that was my theory. That was what I was going to jump on this show and say. That's what I was going to jump on the show and say. That this was just a horrible team, that they blew another game that was winnable, another series that was winnable, somehow was winnable. And it was because of mismanagement by the manager, bad errors and mistakes, not hitting with runners in scoring position, a starting pitcher who, while has been fine, has not pitched to the capability he's capable of pitching to. Putting in Sean Manaea in a game where, it's a tie game at 1. Sean Manaea should not be in the game in a tight game at 1. And he gives up a base hit to Anthony Volpe that gives them the lead, and he's walking guys, he's hitting guys. The mistakes by Tyrone Taylor and the drop by Bo Bichette, not challenging the play at third where the runner was clearly out of third base and they didn't challenge it. They didn't review it. The Mets, once again, botching ABS challenges and wasting challenge. There was a challenge that the Mets made. I can't remember what batter it was, but it was a pitch up here, clearly a ball, and they challenged it. And, a pitch up here or by the Mets pitching, by the Mets catchers that they thought was a strike, but it was so high and it was called, and it got reversed and it stayed as a ball. The Mets continuously don't know the ABS challenges, don't know how to properly use them, don't know how to win one yet. There was so many things throughout the 8 innings of this game that they did so wrong, and yet they somehow, some way pulled out a win by sheer luck, resilience, determination, fight, battle. And all it took was one swing of the bat from one of the many island of misfit toys that the Mets are playing right now in their lineup, because that's the Mets lineup. The Mets lineup right now is Juan Soto, 2 rookies, Bichette and, 2 rookies, AJ Ewing and Carson Bench, Marcus Semien, who's at least good with runners in scoring position, the best hitter on the team with runners in scoring position, and a struggling, awful Bo Bichette, who's having maybe the worst season of his career up to this point, and the island of misfit toys, Luis Torrens, Tyrone Taylor, MJ Melendez, Austin Slater, Hayden Senger, Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, the island of misfit toys. And they pulled together, and Tyrone Taylor, who made a couple of big mistakes, on defense, which is his specialty, that resulted in the big inning for the Yankees that got him the 5-3, 6-3 lead. He comes up with second and third and 2 outs. And on the first pitch he sees against David Bednar, he launches one, crushes it to left field for a 3-run homer to tie the game at 6. This is David Bednar, one of the top end closers in the game, and he hits a 3-run homer, crushed it to tie the game. We go to the top of the 10th, and Devin Williams, who ran out of town in the Bronx, was kicked out, called a bum, was done, had his struggles certainly this year with the Mets. But the last 2 days now, we'll go to Saturday's game, but first today's game, Devin Williams goes out there today in the 10th inning, gives up a walk to Volpe. For some reason, Mets pitching walked Volpe 7 times in the series. Very weird. But Williams comes in and he gets a key double play. He strikes out a batter and then gets a key double play. Mark Vientos, for the second game in a row, gets a big 3-6-3 double play to send this game to the bottom of the 10th. And then in a game that was highlighted and marred by Mets mistakes and errors, it's the Yankees who make the big error. It's the Yankees who make the big mistake. It's the Yankees who bungle on defense again for the second day in a row. On a Carson Bench ground ball over the head of Tim Hill, and the Yankees second baseman, the Yankees shortstop collide into each other. No communication whatsoever who should get the ball. They definitely could have had a play of Marcus Semien. Maybe a Semien 5 years ago could have beat the throw out, but certainly not the Semien of today. Ball comes in, they collide into each other like a bunch of bowling pins, and Marcus Semien scores, and the Mets win a game that they had no business winning. They win a series that they had no business winning. They make a comeback win for the first time in 2 years, down by a run or more in the 8th after 8 innings of play. For the first time in a year or 2 years. I think they were 0-93 or 0-94 in those kind of games. So that streak is finally over. There was some miscommunication earlier in the season of that streak being over when Luis Robert hit the walk-off homer earlier back in April, the first week of the season. But that obviously wasn't the case because the game was tied. But finally the streak is over. The Mets finally have a come-from-behind win after 8 innings of play. And you add that on to yesterday's game, Saturday, winning the way they did and facing adversity after losing Clay Holmes to a broken leg. Again, the Yankees also making some mistakes with the Carlos Rodon wild pitch and the throwing error to home plate. And Luke Weaver showing some serious guts. Another former Yankee cast off to Queens, to little brother, cast off, and he goes out there with the bases loaded and nobody out when things were going bad. Things looked like they were unraveling. Carson Bench makes a horrible error, dropping the ball in right field. Raley hits a batter. The bunt by Chisholm that goes over Raley's head for an infield single. And it's just looks like things are unraveling and the Mets are going to blow it and the Yankees will come out and win. But Weaver comes in, shows some serious guts, some serious moxie, some serious you-know-what. And he strikes out 2 batters. Rosario struck out another batter, and he got I think it was a ground out force out to Volpe to end the inning. Huge gutsy. And then he goes out in the second inning, Anthony Luke Weaver, and gives you a shutout inning in the 8th inning. That was also the first double play by Vientos. And he pitches 2 great shutout innings to give you a chance to win. Devin Williams goes out there, closes the game out, and the Mets come out with a big gutsy win right there on Saturday. So 2 straight after losing another player due to injury in such a tough, bad luck manner. The ball from Spencer Jones hitting Clay Holmes right in the leg, and he ends up breaking his tib fibula, and he's out apparently won't need surgery, but he's going to be out for a long time. You're looking at least late August, maybe early September at the latest. But again, regardless, who knows where the Mets will be at that point? Who knows? There's still a long way to go for this team. But for the Mets to come back and fight and battle the way they did, today and even Saturday, it gives you gives you a little bit of something. It gives you a little something. The Mets have been waiting for something. This series should have been a complete domination by the Yankees, but the Mets came back on Saturday, pulled it out, and then down 6-3 in the ninth inning with 2 outs after playing awful baseball for 8 innings. Awful baseball for 8 innings. A horribly managed game from Carlos Mendoza to the point where, again, that was today for 8 innings was a point where I was like, there's just no justifying keeping him as the manager. There's just no justifying it. You just couldn't. And they one swing of the bat later, a great inning from Devin Williams and a great play made by Mark Vientos later, and a little lucky bounce from Carson Bench and then they collide into each other like a bunch of bowling pins. Simeon scores, and the Mets somehow, some way pull out a win out of their you-know-whats. So the question now is, where do they go from here? Great response. A great response by the Mets. A great response after Friday's loss and losing Holmes for a long time. But there's still a long way to go. They are still, 6 games under 500, something like that, 7 games under 500. Now they have a tough series coming up with the Nationals, 4-game series starting tomorrow. But there's still a long way to go for this team. They're 20-26 now. There's still a long way to go for this team. I can't really get optimistic until they hit the 500 mark, and they're still a long ways from that. But at least I said the other day on Twitter on Friday that the season was a wash, and I still feel that way. The season's a wash. Just with all the injuries piling up on each other, the season feels like a wash. And you just really right now, you're looking at Soto to continue to play well. You're looking at your young guys like Ewing and McClain and Benj and any other AAA guys that come up like Clifford or Morabito or Tong, etc. You're looking at those guys. And I still feel that way, that the season is a wash at this point, especially with the long list of injuries. But games like this and a series like this should hopefully, you look at that and go, can you turn the truck around? Can you turn this train around and get back on track? Can you finally make this at least a season? Has this lit a spark? We'll find out. Because if they lose 5 of 7 or 7 of 9 after this, then obviously it hasn't. But can you take this and carry it over? That's going to be the biggest question. Because we're already saying, everyone's saying the biggest win of the year. But it's like, but this is where baseball is an everyday game and a 162 game and a 6-month, 7-month season. It depends on what you do after. This was a great week for the Mets, a great homestand, 5-1. Hey, I'll take a 5-1 homestand after they were previously, 6-12 at home? What were they, 6-12 at home prior to this homestead against Detroit? I mean, my God, can you at least make Citi Field a home field advantage for you, please? But they win this game. They go 5-1 in the homestead. They have this incredible comeback. Now can you carry this over? And it ain't going to get any easy because you still have Clay Holmes out. You still have, you're trying to fight it out with Pearson out of the bullpen. You got so many of your everyday players still hurt. Can you carry this over? Can you? That's what we're going to have to find out. That's what we're going to have to find out with this team. But regardless, an incredible comeback win. And I was ready to rip them to shreds. I was ready to come on today and completely rip them to shreds. I was ready to rip them to shreds. And instead, I now do this video pleased and happy. But my goodness, for 8 innings, that was some of the worst baseball they've played all year long. And then it just all gone, just like that. Completely gone. Ain't the story anymore. And it took one swing of the bat. Great Great defense from Vientos and a great 1-2-3 from Devin Williams and a little bit of a lucky bounce. So that's all it took to erase 8 innings of pitiful baseball. Pitiful baseball for 8 innings to erase 90% bad baseball. And for the Yankees to be objective and everything as I sit and wear Mets colors, are you kidding me? Seriously, are you kidding me? Look, the Yankees are obviously going to win 95 plus games, whatever. They probably win the division. We'll see. Right now, Tampa Bay is playing great. But are you kidding me? I know the Yankees have injuries too. Max Fried obviously recently got hurt. They're still waiting on Cole to come back. Stanton didn't play. Obviously, he's been banged up and hurt. But still, you have the second best record in all of baseball. This Mets team is riddled with injuries. Riddled. They're starting Austin Slater in the lineup. They're starting Luis Torrens in the lineup. Hayden Senger in the lineup. MJ Melendez. Beatty, 2 rookies. Brett Beatty, 2 rookies. I know he's hitting the ball well right now, but even Mark Vientos, a struggling, horrible Bo Bichette right now. The Mets don't really have much right now on offense. They don't. Usually in the Subway, look, the Subway Series. It's one thing I've learned because this stupid thing has been a thing for my whole life. You know, it first came up in 1997. But if there's one thing I know about the Subway Series is this: every game is every time they meet in the series, it's always 0-0. Doesn't really matter what the records are. It doesn't really matter who's good, who's not. It's always 0-0. If you really look at it, it's always 0-0. So like their records at that point don't really matter when they face each other. It really doesn't. But this was still a series that the Yankees should have dominated. And I thought they were going to full-on sweep them after Friday. I thought for sure that this would be a full-on Yankee sweep on Friday after they won. Because it just felt like it. You know, and then the Mets are throwing a bullpen game on Saturday with Brazoban throwing for an inning or so, and then Pearson would come in out of the bullpen, and who knows what you were going to get at Pearson this year. As he actually the other day, he pitched all right. Pearson pitched well overall Saturday with 8 strikeouts, but even still, he gave up a couple hits to lefties. He gave up a hit by pitch, I think, to a lefty. So Pearson continues to struggle against lefties. But Rodon made mistakes, the throwing error, the wild pitch, the throwing error. Vientos had a 3 RBI day. Juan Soto had a great day, 4 hits, 4 times on base, 2 hits, 2 walks, 2 runs scored, 2 stolen bases. Carson Bench, even with the error, had a 3-hit day. Beatty had an RBI. And Weaver comes in and saves the day in the 7th and 8th, and then Williams closes it out in the 9th. So they win a game. The Yankees win that they let that one get away from them. Today especially, they let it get away from them. So after the Mets were completely, awful for 8 innings, you then were awful for the last 2. And if you're so I have to ask, so again, with the Yankees, it's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That should have been a sweep. That should have been a sweep from the Yankees. It should have been a sweep, and it goes to the point where these are, and again, maybe I'm wrong come October. Maybe the Yankees do hold up the World Series trophy at the end of the season, but these are the kind of series, where I watch the Yankees and this is where I get worried. Because these are the signs that I see where it then shows up in October. You know what I mean? The errors, the mistakes, not coming through runs scoring position unless their names are Aaron Judge or maybe some other guy. Last year was Bellinger and Judge. The other year was Soto and Judge. Now it's Judge and Ben Rice, who's been great. And he had a home run today. He's been great. So who's going to step up? Chisholm, Bellinger, Austin Wells, Caballero, Anthony Volpe, Stanton. Can he get on the field? Stanton. Paul Goldschmidt off the bench as a platoon player. Someone else got to step up. Someone else has to make these plays, score these runs, and get some big hits. It can't just be Judge and or somebody else. It has to be. And look, Judge has to play well in the postseason as well. And He had a great postseason last year, and if you're the Yankees, you hope that continues into this postseason, because the Yankees, of course, will make the postseason. But can that continue into this postseason? He did struggle in the World Baseball Classic, but we'll put that to the side for a second when discussing Major League Baseball postseason. He is coming off still a great postseason a year ago. But these are the kind of series that's where I kind of have to hold back and go, I don't know. I don't know. But again, I go, are you kidding me? The Yankees should have walked into this series and just dog walked the Mets. They should have dog walked them. And they didn't. Saturday, you let that one get. Saturday, you had a golden opportunity with the bases loaded and the Mets imploding and nobody out, and you let your old buddy Luke Weaver beat you for 2 innings and was dominant in the 7th. And today, you had them right where you wanted them. The Mets were imploding, bad mistakes, bad management, not challenging well, nothing from their offense for the majority of the game for 8 innings. And then it was David Bednar, who you acquired at the deadline last year, who's been overall pretty solid, pretty good for you, and you facing Tyrone Taylor, he's probably got more power than me, but he certainly doesn't have much power than a lot of other big leaguers. Tyrone Taylor isn't exactly Mark McGwire up there or anybody. He's a great defender, and today was a very rare day where he was terrible defensively. He made a couple of bad mistakes, but this isn't exactly a silver slugger here at the plate here. You had him right where you wanted them, and Bednar just put up a lazy breaking ball right over the middle, and Tyrone Taylor launched it. I mean, launched it for a 3-run homer. And then you get first and third, one out. Austin Wells at the plate. All Austin Wells has to do is 2 things. He has to either hit a fly ball to drive in the runner and not hit a double play. If he pops up, fine. So what? You got Ben Rice coming up, and he's already got a home run. And Judge also, too, would be coming up if Ben Rice gets on base. The only thing he couldn't do was not ground into a double play, and he grounded into a double play. That was the one thing he couldn't do, and he did it. He grounded into a double play. The one thing he couldn't do. Even if he struck out, it's like, all right, here goes Ben Rice. Okay, here goes Ben Rice. Ben Rice is now coming to the plate. Okay. But Juan Soto, but again, not getting the big hit. Not getting the big hit when they have to have it. So, and then the 10th, just kind of a weird defensive formation from Boone, bringing in. I know that sometimes is played from managers, bringing in the entire infield, or bringing in an outfielder. When Terren stepped to the plate, they brought in the left fielder and left field wide open. And then when Ben stepped up, they left right field wide open by bringing in the right fielder. I don't know if I like that, but all right. I guess I could see where they were going. But as a result, the ground ball happens. Your second baseman and shortstop collide into each other. And that's it, ball game. And I know they were afraid that they couldn't double up Benj, and I get that. Benj is fast. He would have been tough to double up, but still. But if you get the ball and you don't collide, you probably get Simeon. You might at least have a shot at getting Simeon, because Simeon's not as fast as he used to be. But, for the Mets, so to wrap this up in a bow, for the Mets, great comeback, great series, underdogs, should have probably gotten beat up in this series. Tough, resilient, gutsy, these last 2 games, especially today, and they pull it out. You're feeling good, but now you got to carry that through. Now you got to carry this through. You got to carry this 5-1 homestand on the road. It's to a division rival now. You got to carry this. You can't lose 7 out of 8, 9 out of 10, whatever. You can't do that. You got to continue this momentum. You got to continue it. And if you don't, then this will just be a distant memory. No one's going to care in the long run, and it'll just be a nice little day in the season. And then, Yankee fans can truly say the Mets won their World Series, right? But if you can carry this over and win some games and just try to I know it's tough with all the injuries. I know it's tough with the way the offense is. I know it's tough with the way the pitching looks right now. But if you can take this and find a way to get the season back on track, because you're not back yet. You ain't back yet. You're not back yet. You're still 6 games under 500. You ain't back yet. And I know I see some fans say, well, look at the record. The team is take away the 12 game. No, I can't take away the 12 game losing streak, because the 12 game losing streak happened. And the 12 game losing streak is the reason why they're in this spot. So no, I can't take away the 12 game losing streak. Well, I'll take away the 12 game losing streak. They beat this and that. They're this and that. But I don't care. I don't care. It happened. This is who they are. I don't care. Their record is what their record says. What did Bill Parcells? What did Bill Parcells say? You are what your record says you are. Take Bill Parcells' word for it. You are what your record says you are. You're still 6 games under. So please, what they got to try is take this and use it for your momentum. Take it. Don't waste it. And for the Yankees, come on, man. Come on. And now they've lost, I think, what? 7 of their last 9 now? Let me take a look, because I know they lost that series because they were coming into the series cold, but even still, they should have, this was a series they should have dominated. They got swept by Milwaukee. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Orioles, and now they've lost. So again, this is the Yankees' first real rough stretch of the season after getting off to such a hot start. Swept by the Brewers, lost 2 out of 3 to Baltimore, and now have lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets. So they've now hit their first real cold streak of the season, the Yankees. And this is kind of where you look at them and go, okay, is this where they're going to start to play bad? Because, again, we see it every year with them where they're great to start the year, and then kind of around this time, they start to really struggle, and that's when everyone gets upset. But then around late July, August, they turn it around, they turn it on, and then they make the playoffs, right? And then October, and then we get to October, and you don't know what to expect. So is this the start of the same patterns that we always see with them? We'll see. But, still, they should beat Baltimore. But they lost 2 out of 3. You should certainly beat the Mets, and you lost 2 out of 3. And you won the first game, but now lost the last 2. So, again, we'll see how, again, that's my takeaway from this. Like, my takeaway from the Mets is you got to carry this. And if you're the Yankees, it's like, if you're the Mets, it's like great win, great comeback, but can you carry this over? And if you're the Yankees, it's like you'll be all right, but it's series and games like this where we see it all the time, where we get a little, worried and wonder, will this be the case come October? So, great comeback for the Mets overall. Now I'll speak as a fan, but great comeback for the Mets. Thrilling comeback for the Mets. And just showing toughness and fight and gritty. Just showing some toughness and fight. And I like to see that. I do. I know I'm being a little hard on the Mets even with the win, but again, they did show some toughness and grittiness today and guts. For the last 2 days, they did. And responded really well after losing Clay Holmes to the injury. On to the NBA as the New York Knicks await their opponent for the Eastern Conference Finals. Currently, right now, Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals in Detroit. Cleveland is up 41-26 with 7:30 to go in the half. So Cleveland up to a big 15-point lead, with 7:30 to go in the second period. Cleveland's the more experienced team. Detroit has home court advantage, but Cleveland's the more experienced team. Cavaliers are more experienced. They have the more experienced players, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, etc. They have the more experience. So, but they have the edge right now, 41-26 in this game. They have shot 15 field goals. They've shot 51.7% from the field. Cleveland has 7 3-pointers to the Pistons 3. 18 rebounds by Cleveland. The team leader right now in points for the Cleveland Cavaliers is New York Mets fan Donovan Mitchell. Hey, Donovan Mitchell, buddy. Mets won for you today, man. They pulled out a big one for you and beat the Yankees and took 2 out of 3. Go out there and have a big one for yourself, all right? Right now, the team leader points-wise for the Detroit Pistons, tied with Cade Cunningham and Denise Jenkins. They both have 6. But right now in Detroit, 41-26 Cleveland. with 7:30 to go in the half. Big lead so far for Cleveland as we await to see who will face the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. So if Cleveland wins, then the Knicks will have home court advantage in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they will have it at the Garden. But they will face a more experienced team than they would face Detroit. So we'll see. But we'll keep track of this game as the show goes on. So in the Western Conference Finals, the San Antonio Spurs defeated the God, I keep saying Oklahoma City Thunder. Not yet, we'll see. But they've defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves in 6. They would move on to face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals in probably the most predictable Western Conference Finals I think certainly I've seen in recent memory. This was easy. I mean, and you could argue that this really is the battle. As hot as the Knicks have been, this really is the battle of the NBA. This will be called the real NBA Finals. For a lot of people, this is the real NBA Finals. The Thunder and the Spurs. The winner definitely will be the favorite heading into the finals. So we'll see entering this one. The Thunder were 1-4 against the Spurs had the advantage over the Thunder 4-1 in the regular season. The Spurs were the one team that had the Thunder's number throughout the regular season, but this is the postseason. This is a different environment. This is the Spurs had a battle with the Timberwolves, a bit of a battle, while the Thunder have cruised their way to the Western Conference Finals. But the Thunder are going to have a break. They have a long break similar to the Knicks. Will the Thunder come out cold? Who knows? But they won the finals. They won the championship last year. They won it all last year. So I think you feel good about it, even with the long layoff. As Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was named the NBA MVP today. Thank you, Shams, for spoiling it early. But he was named the NBA's most valuable player for the second year in a row. So congratulations to him. He's cementing himself now, I think, over Nikola as the best player in the league right now. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's a phenomenal player. Despite the 1-4 record, I'll make my prediction right now. Despite the 1-4 record against them in the regular season, I think this is going to go to 7. I think the winner of this series will win the NBA Finals. I'm going to pick the Thunder in 7, but I think it's going to be a great, fun, thrilling series. But I'm going to pick the Thunder in 7. There's just too much championship in them. I think they're on a mission. The Spurs are great. I love the Spurs. I love seeing what they've done. But I just think the Thunder are too good to lose in the postseason. And I think this is what they've been building towards all season long. They're on a mission to repeat. Shai is on a mission to repeat. They're trying to win their second title in a row. They want to become the new dynasty. So I think they're on a mission. I think this is going to be a fun, thrilling series. It'll be great, but I think the Thunder win in 7 in OKC. As for the Knicks, we'll see how that long layoff. Let's see. I think the Thunder will react well to the long layoff because, again, they won it all last year. I think they'll be fine. The Knicks, we'll see. Again, this is their second year in a row, though, in the Eastern Conference Finals, but they haven't been to the finals. They haven't been there yet. They're going to face two teams that are trying to get there, too, for the first time. Or at least the Cavs for the first time in a while since LeBron, and the Pistons for the first time since the mid-2000s with Ben Wallace and Rasheed Wallace and Chauncey Billups, etc., and Larry Brown as their head coach. But this is where the Knicks, as hot as they've been for 7 games, we'll see how they look against the team, whether it's the Cavs or the Pistons, who have just played. So will that long layoff affect the Knicks? We'll find out. But that is it right now for the NBA. And like I said, SGA was named the NBA's most valuable player. Currently, right now, Cavs are at 41-29 with 6:57 to go in the second quarter and a half. A little bit of NFL news to wrap up the show. The Pittsburgh Steelers, shocking, not shocking, re-sign Aaron Rodgers to the surprise of nobody, let's be honest. I'm honestly just glad that they didn't drag this, or Rodgers, I should say, didn't drag this out longer than he should. I'm just glad they got this, just do it now, get the deal done now. It's over and done with. It's no longer a distraction going into mandatory minicamp and OTAs and training camp eventually and such. And plus, like, everyone knew this is going to be the case. I thought there was a decent chance that Rodgers would retire after the playoff loss to Houston. But as time went on after the playoff game and the hiring of McCarthy, it did feel like he was going to come back. So I think, Rodgers coming back is big for Pittsburgh. It's big for the Steelers. They will compete, I think, for the division. Do I think they're the best team right now in the division? No, I do think it's the Ravens, but it does give them a chance to compete for the division and win it again. They'll certainly be in the playoff hunt again. I wouldn't be surprised if they won 10 games again or 11 games again and made the playoffs. It's what happens in January when they get there. But, again, what's the future for the Steelers at quarterback? We don't know. They have a 42, 43-year-old quarterback now starting. They drafted Drew Aller, but he's more than likely going to be a redshirt freshman. And they, of course, have Will Howard. But we'll see now this relationship. Here we go. It's official. Rodgers and McCarthy are reunited. And apparently they've mended fences. We all know how that ended in Green Bay. If you go all the way back, not that long ago, 9 or so, 10 years ago, all the way back in 2017, 2018, that marriage ended poorly. And Rodgers never really had a decent relationship with McCarthy because he always was bitter. He was always bitter about McCarthy being the offensive coordinator of San Francisco, passing on him, with Mike Nolan as the head coach, by the way, passing on him for Alex Smith in the 2005 draft when he fell all the way to Green Bay. He always felt bitterness to it, and he held on to it for as long as he could, for as long as McCarthy was the head coach, even when they had all that success and they won the Super Bowl. He still had it in him, even though Mike McCarthy did a good job coaching Rodgers up and changing his mechanics and stuff to make sure he was ready to take over for Brett Favre. And he became the Hall of Fame quarterback that we know of him today, in large part because of Mike McCarthy. But apparently they've mended, but the relationship didn't end well. Rodgers threw McCarthy under the bus a bunch of times. The media and the press threw McCarthy under the bus a bunch of times and defended and ran to the defense of Aaron Rodgers a bunch of times. And McCarthy, I think, unfairly got a lot of unnecessary crap and a lot of unnecessary hate during his time in Green Bay that I think it also affected him. I think it also affected him heading into his time in Dallas, which he had a good run in Dallas. He did. But how is the relationship now? According to Rodgers and McCarthy, especially Rodgers, they've mended fences. They've cleared the air. They're fine now. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out when the season starts. We're going to find out how good that relationship is. Is it at least fine where they can still be good the way they were in Green Bay for the majority of their time? Or is old wounds going to come back up and it's going to be a disaster for the Steelers? And that's how Rodgers will go out. And that's how McCarthy will go out. I guess you could say they came in together. Not technically, but you could still say they came in together and they would leave together. So we'll see how it goes. But Rodgers and McCarthy are officially back together. And I think that's going to be one of the more intriguing storylines heading into the 2026 NFL season. But again, to the surprise of no one, I think Aaron Rodgers being back is just not a shock to anybody. If anything, we just, we knew all the way back in, I would say March or April. I think March is when I think we figured that, or at least in February when they made the hire, or January when they made the hiring for Mike McCarthy, that we figured that Rodgers was going to come back. Because why else would you hire Mike McCarthy? You're hiring him just so you can get Rodgers back. That's why you're hiring him. So, but we'll see how this goes. Like I said, this becomes one of the more intriguing storylines of the National Football League season heading into it. So, one last track, 47-31 Cleveland. With 5 minutes to go at the half. So we'll see. We'll be back tomorrow to talk. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more about the NBA and to talk more about the playoffs, and we'll see who the Knicks are facing and talk more about the Western Conference Finals. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. Have yourselves a great day. Hope you guys had a good weekend, and hope you guys have had a great day. And take care. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And take care.